Look, they punching him and shit. Hey, I'm a fucking shooter. This video from 6 months ago, 7 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, has been receiving viral attraction lately. I had a friend of mine share it with me on Instagram, where the Chicago police are making an arrest on a suspect. People are freaking out with little detail, little information, but let's get into it. I want to make one quick note. The arrest took place in the area of the Cabrini Greens apartments in Chicago. Now, I don't know what the apartments are like now, but I know back in the day when I used to live in Indiana and I used to work at the prison system in Indiana, the Cabrini Green apartments were notorious for violence and gang activity. And I would assume that those activities have continued, as possibly evidenced by this video. But again, I don't know. I can't say 100%. If I have any friends out there or viewers out there who are from the Chicago area, please let me know. But as you can see in the video, people were irate. They were angry at the police, yelling and screaming. But listen to the details of this video, what they've learned after. The officer was suspended, if I'm not mistaken. But just listen to the details of the arrest and the suspect's long, sordid history.
It's less than a minute long, but already it has sparked a lawsuit and questions about a Chicago police officer's actions.
And it's an officer who has been in the headlines before. Our Tara Molina is always investigating and joins us now. Tara, we've learned the man actually has a long arrest record.
That's right, Erica and Joe. Lorenzo.
Yeah, let me make a quick note. When I first saw this video, or I started doing research on this incident, I saw a short video, maybe in a minute and a half, from a local Chicago area news network. And they saved the fact that the suspect had a long record or even had a record in the first place. They saved that to the very, very end. They spent 90 seconds riling people up, showing the activists and people up being upset, and this officer talking about his record and his controversial background. But they waited to the very last moment to address who the suspect was. Now, wouldn't you think that equal time should be brought to breaking down both histories? If the officer has a controversial background and they want to talk about it, we should know about that. It could be that he is in the wrong in this incident, but it also could be that the details of the case could have influenced why these officers acted the way they did. But again, they know how we are as Black folks. We see some brother being roughed up on the street by some police officers. Many of us, not all of us, thankfully, jump to the conclusion and assume that those officers are wrong. But somehow in their mind, especially those that live in some of these crappy neighborhoods, they can't put two and two together and think and just pause for a moment and think maybe this dude did something to deserve the situation he's in. Call me crazy, but let's continue.
And Joe, Lorenzo Williams is known to police, and he has a long felony record, including resisting arrest. Both Chicago police and the Civilian Office of Police Accountability are investigating right now.
Now, here's a little update before this video ends with some details that I think will help everyone out tremendously. I did an internet search, ran it through some AI to see what I can find out, and here's what I found. The AI stated that its sources were CBS Chicago, Illinois State Police, Chicago Sun-Times, and the Sex Offender Detail. Feel free to do some additional research on your own. AI isn't always 100%. But here's what we found. Lorenzo Williams, that was a suspect who the police were attempting to take into custody, has a significant criminal history in Chicago involving multiple offenses and arrests. Here are the key points. Lorenzo Williams registered as a sex offender in Chicago with a lifetime registration requirement. He was convicted of deviant sexual assault, and failure to report a change of address and annually. The victim was 46 years old, and Williams was 16 at the time of the offense. If I'm not mistaken, I think they said he was 31 in this video. So it's clear that his rap sheet goes back a long time. In 2010, it says he was convicted of possession of a stolen motor vehicle, a Class 2 felony, and sentenced as a Class X offender to 6 years imprisonment. So he did 6 years in prison. Now, if those details are true, I think that can also shed a bit of light on this. And I thought this information might be a little helpful to y'all. Back to the video.
The use of force expert I talked to said it's very important to keep in mind, while it's clear what you'll see in this video, it's only 30 seconds long.
I say that over and over again, y'all, especially those of you who are familiar with my primary focus on this channel was addressing police use of force, police decision making. And I say it over and over and over again. I can never stress it enough. Context matters, y'all. It absolutely matters. You can't know all the details, and you can't have the full context from a minute-long or 30-second clip from an entire arrest, unless the entirety of the arrest is actually shown in the footage. Details, y'all. The details are important.
I want to warn you, this could be hard to watch.
The video isn't long. It all happens quickly. Take a look at your screen. You see a man now identified as 32-year-old Lorenzo Williams on the ground, surrounded by police. 3 physically trying to detain him. 1 officer holding him by his hair. Another hits him with what appears to be a police radio, then says, before pulling out his weapon, it all happens quickly. Take a look at your screen. You see a man now identified as 32-year-old Lorenzo Williams on the ground, surrounded
it looked like he had something in his hand.
By police. 3 physically trying to detain him. 1 officer holding him by his hair, then says, before pulling out his weapon and holding it to Williams' head.
I'm not sure if the object was big enough to be a radio, but it did appear that he had something in his hand.
The video ends.
Yes, we're aware of the video. We're aware of the video. It's not a complete video. It doesn't show.
Now, just listen to the superintendent here.
Everything. What I can tell you right now is that that ended in an arrest, gun recovery at the time. But what
this contact right here ended in an arrest and the recovery of a gun. And if you go back and watch the beginning of that video, as far as the arrest or the allegation of police brutality, you'll see that the suspect it appeared that he had his hands, or at least one hand, underneath him. And they were seeking to bring his hands behind him. That's what I would assume, just knowing the job, that they were seeking to put him under arrest. But he seemed to be resisting. And so let's put some of those details together. We have a allegation of a gun charge. We have a suspect who appears to be resisting arrest. So again, we're seeking to have a complete and more full understanding of everything that's going on.
I will tell you is the Chicago Police Department, myself, we take these things seriously.
The lawsuit filed today by Williams and his attorney alleges illegal use of force, claiming Williams was peacefully walking on public property when he was approached by officers without cause. But
now, again, we don't know the details. He could be telling the truth, but he could also be lying. Hopefully, the officers had some body camera footage. They were wearing body cameras. I'm going to see if I can do a little more digging. Again, this incident took place a few months ago. So I'm going to see if I can find an update. Maybe there's some additional footage so we can know more of the details.
But the police report we got our hands on paints another picture.
I'll let y'all pause that and read it. We'll let the video proceed.
According to this, when officers made what they call an investigative stop after they saw Williams with a gun in his waistband on a pod camera. Police say he tried to run from officers, was taken down, and tried to grab the gun they were originally stopping him for. We've identified the officer with.
Let me just pause and comment there. Now, if what they're saying there is true, again, we don't know. Suspect was found with a gun on him, was fleeing from the police when they attempted to make contact or attempted to arrest him, and he was reaching and trying to grab his gun. Again, we'll find out, I guess, in time. But if those details are true and the suspect was still in possession of a firearm, what those officers did were completely justified, because you have a potential deadly threat there. May not be popular to the uninitiated, but for those of us who are familiar with the job of being in law enforcement, and particularly police work, you know that there is a potential deadly weapon in the mix, and you're seeking to place the suspect under arrest, and he's resisting. Yeah, you're going to do what you got to do to make sure you get that guy under control and you get control of that weapon before anyone gets hurt.
With the gun as Michael Donnelly. Known to the CBS News Chicago investigative team, Donnelly was involved in the Anjanette Young and Peter Mendez wrong raids.
Now, let me tell you something. That Anjanette Young arrest, I remember that from years ago. They did a search warrant, I believe, on this lady, and she had to stand around with no clothes on, and it was the wrong home. Horrible situation. Police officers mess up all the time. I know there have been many situations where I was on calls and we kicked in the wrong door or took down the wrong person. It happens. I'm not seeking to justify it, but considering his background, I think it's a good question to ask to make sure that this officer is on the up and up. But not every situation is necessarily an officer who's seeking to violate somebody's rights or seeking to break the law. But I'm thankful that we do have a system in place, whether it's the internal affairs system, the civilian review board, and various jurisdictions, the local DA office. There are many ways officers get investigated to keep us on the up and up, because the sad reality is there are some officers who take advantage of the powers they get. It's far from the majority, but it happens more than it should. There's no question about that.
No comment from Chicago police on that. Williams faced a judge yesterday who ordered he be detained until his next court date. He's currently charged with 4 felonies and 2 misdemeanors in this case, including unlawful use of a weapon by a felon and aggravated assault of a police officer.
It's important to remember that just having video and seeing something that looks appalling to us, and it does look appalling, doesn't necessarily mean that we can come to a conclusion that the wrong thing was done or the right thing was done.
That's University of Pittsburgh School of Law professor and use of force.
He's 100% right. At this moment, or at the time this video came out, we were unaware of all the details.
Expert David Harris.
Officers are in a struggle to control this man.
He said, most importantly, this video only captures 30 seconds, and there's a lot more we need to know. Most importantly, did Williams have a weapon on him? Did he reach for that gun, like police detail in their report?
Most important fact.
Having a recording does tell you a lot of things. There is no question that the officer pulled his gun and stuck it in the man's face. There is no question that he hit the man with something, but so much more is still to be known.
Lorenzo Williams is still behind bars right now. He's due back in court next week. The lawsuit he filed today doesn't name the officers involved. Williams' attorneys didn't respond to our requests for a comment.
Now, I was hoping this video would have went into more detail as to the suspect's background, but they said he had an extensive background. All those things matter, y'all. If there's conducting a search warrant, maybe they had some information. They're in plain clothes, so maybe they had some intel on him. They said something about a pod video of him with a weapon. He could have been a known felon, and they were coming in contact with him, seeking to take him into custody. So they might have had some more information about his background and who he is. Again, y'all, all of these factors matter. And so for people to be freaking out over this situation, which looked ugly from the outset, if what the officers wrote in their police report is true, them pulling the gun on the guy, if he's got a gun in his hand, is good police work. Them punching the guy who may have a gun in his possession is good police work. Stop that threat, secure him, take him into custody so you keep the whole community safe. If you appreciate this video, you're going to want to check out this video right here where I talk about issues just like this.